The psychology of people who know they are about to die. You're in a familiar space, the kind where nothing needs explaining. The chair is where it always is. The light hasn't changed. Someone nearby is talking about something ordinary, something that assumes time continues in a straight line. You listen. You answer when it seems natural. But your attention isn't fully inside the conversation. It isn't drifting away. It isn't pulled by anxiety. It feels settled, somewhere slightly behind everything. Time doesn't feel dramatic here. It doesn't speed up or slow down. It just stops pressing. There's an idea people carry about moments like this, that awareness of death should arrive loudly, that it should come with fear or insight or urgency, some visible reaction that confirms how serious it is. But what often shows up instead is quieter than expected. So quiet, it almost feels like nothing happened. When that calm appears, it can feel strange. Not comforting, not frightening, just unfamiliar. Others might read it as distance. You might wonder why you're not reacting the way you imagined you would. There's a strong expectation that knowing the end should sharpen things, that conversations should deepen, that emotions should rise to the surface, that every moment should feel meaningful. Sometimes that happens. Other times what happens is smaller, a kind of narrowing, not closing off, just fewer things pulling for attention. Thoughts don't circle the same way. Old arguments lose their grip. Plans still exist, but they don't ask to be rehearsed. It's not that the future vanishes, it just becomes quieter. This can be confusing to people watching from the outside. We're used to living forward. Even rest is usually framed as preparation for what's next. So when someone stops orienting that way, it can feel unsettling. From the inside, though, it often doesn't feel like a problem. It feels like less noise. Attention drifts toward what's already present. Not in a mindful way, not intentionally, just naturally. The weight of fabric, a familiar sound in the background, the presence of someone without needing conversation. These moments don't feel important while they're happening. They just feel complete. There's often less interest in explaining oneself, not as a choice, more as a fading impulse. Words become simpler. Silences stretch without discomfort. Not because there's nothing to say, but because saying it feels unnecessary. People around you might wait for something more. A reflection, a final clarity. Some sign that this moment has been processed correctly. And when it doesn't appear, it can feel disappointing, as if something meaningful was skipped. Inside, though, there may be no sense of skipping at all, just no urgency to perform understanding. That quiet is easy to misread, as withdrawal, as denial, as emotional absence. Yet it often feels like presence, undivided, undemanding. Still, it doesn't always come from peace. The same stillness can come from exhaustion, from pain without words, from a kind of flattening that protects more than it reveals. Calm doesn't always mean acceptance, and acceptance doesn't stay consistent. Sometimes it's there, sometimes it isn't, which makes it hard to explain what any of it means. When the noise drops, what remains isn't always insight. Sometimes it's just space. And in that space, some people seem to want fewer layers, fewer conversations, less explanation. Not because life feels empty, but because it no longer feels negotiable. There's an inward quality to this that doesn't translate well. It doesn't ask to be understood. It doesn't try to reassure anyone. It simply exists. We tend to value movement, realization, transformation. So stillness can look like absence, even when it isn't. This difference doesn't point upward or downward. It just sits slightly to the side. If any of this feels familiar, Not because of death itself, but because of moments when time felt suddenly limited. That recognition may stay with you for a while. Not as an answer, just as a quiet sense of being seen. In another video, we'll look at what happens when people begin letting go of future versions of themselves long before anything appears wrong, and why that shift often feels confusing to others. For now, it might be enough to notice what has gone quiet, and what you find yourself noticing instead.